And then she goes, I told you not to shoot it in my face. And Peter goes, sorry. And she goes, stupid web shooters. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Back Issues with Tiny and Adam. I'm Tiny, your host. With me, as always, Adam Levy. Adam, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Mike. How you doing?
Wonderful. How's your Labor Day?
Yeah, not too bad. It was pretty quiet, uneventful. Sat around, watched some TV.
Did you have to work today?
I did not.
We could have done this hours ago.
We probably could have. I was still reading, though, thinking I was reading Daredevil, thinking we were doing that today.
Yeah, we had a little miscommunication, and we both ended up reading different comics. Luckily, Adam is far superior human to me and can do the recap on the one that I thought we were supposed to read. Yeah. So you spent, what'd you read? Daredevil, Black Cat, and
well, I read Daredevil. I read Marvel Knight's Daredevil, and I read his Green Arrow stuff.
All right. So you don't have Black Cat stuff?
I've got the issue somewhere. I'd have to probably find it online to reread that one.
I'm gonna have to grab it. If I can grab them, I'll send you a link.
Okay, cool. That'd be great.
We are going to talk about Planetary from Mr. Warren Ellis. What an amazing book. Really cool. It was a difficult read for me, I'll be honest. But once I got into it, I was hooked. I was slammed. The last half of the book went by so fast.
Yeah, well, I mean, part of the reason for that is some of those issues in the last half were very short issues too. They weren't full issues there towards the end. But yeah, I mean, Warren Ellis did a great job writing this story, and John Cassidy's artwork on this was amazing. I fell in love with his artwork, through the course of this book.
Yeah, outstanding artwork. I have no doubt about that. It's amazing. There's not a panel in it that looked like they just let's just phone this one in.
No, I mean that's one of the things. Yeah, John Cassidy's a great artist. He unfortunately, it's hard for him to do monthly books because of his art style. He takes his time, and you kind of felt that a bit with Planetary, because even when the book was coming out, I think it was every other month because of the art schedule. But then like I was talking about before the show started, the entirety of this series, all 27 issues and the one shot, took 10 years to come out. So it was a lengthy process. Yeah, and when you're reading this issue by issue, when there's like 4 years between issues, you kind of forget what came beforehand.
I gave up 3 days and I forgot. So
yeah,
I mean, it was a Sopranos-like kind of release schedule. It took forever, and luckily I didn't have to wait, because I wouldn't have. I really wouldn't have.
Yeah, it's like every couple of years, it's like, ooh, a new issue of Planetary is coming out. Great.
Hey. So now that they remake a movie in the same time that this came out, they'd already remade Planetary into a new movie.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking, Avatar sequel timeline here, where they're pushing 10 years for that sequel. So, fans of that know what I'm going through.
Sometimes sequels take time.
They do.
Not The Godfather or, but so.
Like Independence Day.
But Planetary is, in a nutshell, Planetary is about 3 individuals who are out to find the secret history of the world, I guess.
Yeah, they refer to themselves as mystery archaeologists.
Archaeologists.
I wouldn't say century. They're looking for the hidden mysteries of the world.
Of the world.
That's what they do. They uncover secrets. That's their whole mission, is to find the stuff that's been hidden from the world and use this information to try and make a better place.
Yeah, and they find from some of your favorite monsters in history, in literature, to an island full of dinosaurs.
Yeah.
It's all over. And real people and fictional people kind of interbreed in a weird kind of way. Jules Verne is a character. Sherlock Holmes is a character thought to be real.
Yeah.
So it does require some imagination.
Yeah, I mean, last week we talked about The Boys and this whole like depraved superhero character, whereas in this book, Warren Ellis takes variations of these characters that we know, and instead of painting them in this horrible picture, these characters are looking for the backstory, for the reason why these people were here, the things that they've done and why they did what they did. So I mean, so it's a complete 180 from what we read last week, what we talked about last week. So I mean, that's
I can't wait to get to actual superheroes being super, because we're doing a lot of parody superhero stuff. It's about the Marvel and the DC, but it's not the Marvel and the DC.
yeah. I mean, if you read these,
there's a very Fantastic Four like group in this story that's not the Fantastic Four, and there's a Hulk like character, and it's not the Hulk. But you get to draw into that what you want as a reader.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely parallels to these characters and the real characters, but you know why they were there and what they were doing is completely different from what you know of as these characters.
So to tell you what it's about, I don't even know where to start. What exactly? All right, so the story begins with Elijah Snow. Jaquita, right? Is that her name?
Jaquita Wagner.
Jaquita Wagner and the drummer are Planetary. 3 people, 3 individuals.
Well, I mean, technically, when the story starts, Elijah's not part of Planetary. He is just this guy who sits out in the desert in a diner drinking coffee that tastes like dog piss, and just
lowering the temperature of everything around him.
Yeah, he's just this crazy old hermit living out in the middle of nowhere, and Jaquita comes up and recruits him for this job with this organization called Planetary, who she describes as they're out there to uncover the hidden mysteries of the world, and he decides that he's been doing nothing for long enough. It's about time to get back out there.
Eventually, according to the timeline, and the timeline is rough in this book because it jumps all over the place.
It does.
But he joins Planetary in 1999.
Yes.
And he was born on January 1st, 1900.
Yes. There is this group of people in the series that are referred to as century babies. There's this whole group of...
Hold on. They are Elijah Snow, Dr. Axel Brass, Jenny Sparks, Lord Blackstock, and Brett Leather.
Well, I think they said technically that Axel Brass wasn't a century baby. He was born on the same day, but his stuff, all of his abilities came through science and technology. So he wasn't, they later on go on to describe these century babies as the Earth's protection system, that each one of these people has a specific purpose to fulfill. Jenny Sparks was kind of a warrior. She had, she's a character that was introduced in Warren Ellis's Stormwatch run.
She can kind of manipulate like energy,
electricity.
Technology, or electricity. Yeah.
Yeah.
Elijah Snow is very much snow.
Yeah, he can freeze things, but they go on later on to describe that his purpose as a century baby is a protector. He protects knowledge, he protects people, he protects the world. That is his only function.
Only function. And then you find out in the second to last issue that he's there to actually save someone. Let's take until the second to last issue before you learn that that's the point.
Yeah, the whole point of this book was
to someone else.
Yeah.
So
each of the members of the team, so we've got Elijah Snow, who we talked about. He can freeze things, and he's also just a brilliant detective. You find out later on that he studied under Sherlock Holmes, and that's why he is as good as he is with uncovering some of the stuff. Jaquita
Freeze means Batman.
Yeah, pretty much. Except he doesn't need a special gun to do it. Yeah.
But if he had a bitching car, it would have been so much cooler.
But he does have a great attitude. He is that kind of like bitter old man. A little like Clint Eastwood from Gran Torino.
You always want to put Clint Eastwood in every comic. Like there's always one character that's like it's a very Clint Eastwoody kind of character.
Yeah. I mean, he's iconic. What can you do?
I want to make him like Connery, but he's not British, or Scottish.
And the last time Connery did a comic book movie, it wasn't exactly a great
awesome
thing.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Extraordinary suck.
So the next member of the team is Jaquita Wagner, who is, you find out she's super strong and she's fast. She's got super speed. She's super strong and she's bored easily. That's part of the reason why she joined up this group, because there's always something to keep her occupied.
She just wants something to hit. That's all she wants. It's just something she can beat on a little bit.
And you never see
That's
her
not
as
too much.
happy. You never see her as happy as she can be unless she's actually hitting something. And there are a number of panels in the book where you just see her smiling with joy as she's punching somebody or something.
For as wordy as this book is scientifically, and there's a lot of scientific jargon with bleeds and interdimensional, 3-dimensional, 2-dimensional. There's a lot of it. But when it gets into an action sequence, it's badass.
Yeah.
It's just straight. It'll go on for like 4 pages of just brutality and awesomeness.
And
here it is. After last week, not one word fuck in 27 issues of the comic.
Well, it's because this was Wildstorm. This was
oh wow.
This is basically when DC bought out Jim Lee's portion of Image Comics and incorporated it into the DC universe, so to speak. So this was still kind of published under DC Comics. So that's why there's no language.
You said there's Planetary Batman crossover thing, right?
Yeah, there was a crossover with Batman.
So that should have been. They should have solved that case pretty quick since they're both so fucking awesome.
Yeah. And I don't remember the details.
Like 2 pages.
I don't remember the details of that story, but that one was pretty interesting.
He was like, Martha. My mother's name is Martha.
Oh, one of the worst Batman scenes ever. Oh man.
Yes. But it's so great that we could take that little piece from Step Brothers.
Yeah, exactly.
And
this
move
was
it
a scene from Step
the
Brothers.
DC universe.
Yeah.
Do we just become best friends? Yep, totally.
So which one's Batman? Is John C. Reilly Batman or Superman?
Oh man, that's tough. That's tough. I gotta give Will Ferrell Batman status. Yeah.
Really? Okay.
I think so. Well, he's more of a show off though. Superman's kind of showy.
Yeah.
Maybe we should do a podcast on this. Correlation between Step Brothers and Superman versus Batman.
Oh, yeah, that could be fun.
Then Superman shows up at the Catalina wine mixer. Shit goes sideways.
That would be funny.
Right, so
that would be awesome. Okay, so third member of the team is the drummer. He is this weird guy who carries a pair of drumsticks around, and he can talk to machinery. He can.
There was the one without a name. Why does the drummer not have a name? He's just the drummer.
He is just the drummer. Yeah, he can communicate with machines. He can manipulate energy. He can see, electronic transmit. He can see energy in any form. Information. He can control and manipulate information.
It's a great panel. I kind of got his powers along the lines of Micah from Heroes. Kind of realm for me
a little bit, but whereas Micah can control technology, he can actually see information.
Yeah. There's one panel where he's sitting there and there's a phone and a cup of coffee, and you can see the temperature of the coffee and then like all the information coming out of the phone.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, it's more than just he can talk to computers.
Yeah.
It's information is just visible to him in any realm.
Yeah, he can sense it. There's the issue where they were in London, and he could sense the magic that had been there because it's just another form of information.
Yeah.
So those are the three people of Planetary. You find out later on that there was, before Elijah, there was another person in the group.
We're skipping the fourth man.
Well, I was going to get to the fourth man. I was going to go to the field team first.
I want to bring up the fourth man. Before we move on, I want to bring up the fourth man because the fourth man to me, as I was reading it, the fourth man comes up relatively early. He's mentioned.
Yeah.
And he's the benefactor of Planetary, but this kind of thing.
He's always kind of remained behind the scenes. He's kind of like Charlie. He'll give them their missions and tell them down.
He's the man behind the squeak box. But he doesn't like call them up and be like, "Hello, Planetary."
Yeah, exactly. So the fourth man is the mystery benefactor of the group. He's the one that set up the Planetary organization. He is the man behind the scenes. He's the man behind the curtain.
And I thought the whole story was going to be the search for the fourth man.
Yeah,
not even close.
No, you find out who the fourth man is at the end of the second act.
All right, so there are certain events in history that come up frequently in the book.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not frequently. They're brought up. And there are certain things that they've taken a lot of liberties with. And one of them is the space program.
Yeah.
And having just done Orbiter a couple of weeks ago, why fucking with the space program?
Yeah.
Right. So,
yeah, Warren,
according
he
to
loves
our
space.
story, according to this story, in 1851, 3 men from the American Gun Club, whilst in the company of Jules Verne, were launched into translunar orbit by a supergun, which basically looked like an oil pipeline.
Yeah, it basically
they
it's kind of like a gigantic cannon that was used to launch a vessel into space. And you got to figure
in 1851.
and you got to figure the technology at the time. It was all gunpowder. It was just a massive combustive explosion that launched something into space. Can you imagine the kind of force that would be needed to launch something out of a tube and into orbit?
How many barrels of gunpowder did these guys need to roll up the hill?
And
in order to launch, a 3-man vessel into lunar orbit.
And how did the explosion to launch them in the first place not kill the guys in this vessel? I mean,
right? Because you would think it would be a horrible shockwave, right?
Yeah, but
just if it was a concussive blast.
Yeah,
I mean, everyone around. I mean, how long of a pump can you get to like hold it up? They're like, shit.
And you're gonna need a really long fuse to get that one going.
You need a long stick or a really dumb guy.
Yeah, chances are they may have had both. You never know.
I'm gonna guess it was the dumb guy, and there's always somebody that volunteers for dumb shit.
Yeah, of course. But yeah, you also
Elijah, as he grows. Do you want to go ahead?
I'll say, you've got the space pro. This vessel in 1851. It's basically a giant cannonball shot into space with absolutely no way to return. You figure this is going to be a one-way trip. You don't have rockets. You have no way to land this thing. You have no way to come back. But it was, one of the things about this story is like the technology. It's this. He kind of talks about this whole like this joy of discovering new stuff. I mean, you saw it in Orbiter with Terry and the theoretical propulsion stuff, and you kind of get the same sense of it in here, that he loves this technology and he loves this joy of discovering new stuff and stuff like that, and you definitely get that through a lot of the stuff through the story.
His stumble upon must be awesome.
Probably.
Right? Because I stumble onto really dumb stuff and computer viruses. And that's
they're out there.
So most of the story is told in like a series of flashbacks, kind of. It's like each book goes back to cover a certain point in time of Planetary.
Well, like the first like 5 or 6 issues, it's all in the present, and it's basically just kind of getting you used to the idea of what this team does. It's them just going out and discovering weird stuff. Issue 2, I think, was Island Zero, which is basically all of the Godzilla type monsters having lived on some island out in the middle in the ocean on an island between Japan and Russia.
You gotta take Godzilla in that battle, right? I mean, if you could put King Kong and Godzilla in a fight, who would win?
Oh, I'd definitely give it to Godzilla.
Kong?
I think so. I mean, Godzilla can shoot blasts out of his mouth and shit like that.
I mean, we obviously know the Mothra question is that's settled.
Yeah,
Godzilla in a landslide.
Oh yeah.
Is there any monster out there that you think would take down Godzilla in hand to hand?
I'd have to think about that one. Not off the top of my head right now that I can think of one that could take out Godzilla, but
how long would it take Batman to take out Godzilla?
If you gave him enough time to plan it out, he could do it.
Of course he could. He's Batman.
He'd have to figure out what.
Batman can beat anybody.
He'd have to figure out the weaknesses first and figure out how to exploit them. But yeah, once he figured that out, Godzilla got no chance. Unless he got the drop on Batman.
That's the kind of crossover stuff we need. I don't need Batman and Scooby-Doo and the Harlem Globetrotters. I don't need that. Give me Superman versus Godzilla. Now that's the fight I want to watch.
Well, then you got to see the Ultimate Showdown of Ultimate Destiny, because Batman does take on Godzilla in that.
Really? See, that's awesome. I think of it in its reality.
Oh yeah.
What a world. All right. So where do you want to go in this story here?
So I mean, I don't know. What do you? Because I don't want to give
We
away
got
everything.
John Stone, and John Stone meeting up with Elijah Snow just brings Game of Thrones running all over me, confusing me all the hell. I'm like, why is John Snow? It's not John Snow. It's John Stone. There's all kinds of people. So there's John Stone is a
he is the quintessential.
right.
Well, he's the quintessential secret agent. He is like he's James Bond,
He's
times 100.
Sterling Archer.
Yeah, yeah. He is like the guy that every secret agent story is like based off of this character. According to this story, like he is the end all be all of secret agents. He is the absolute best in the world.
Right. He is born sometime in the 1920s.
Yeah.
Right around the same time as the first Planetary guide. You want to handle the Planetary guides right now, or are we going to wait on those a little bit?
We can wait on this a little bit. Let's talk about why John Stone is introduced, because that's a big part of the story. John Stone shows up about midway through the book, because you find out early on that Elijah Snow does not remember a lot of stuff from his past. There's a lot of holes in his memory, and we don't understand why. And he runs into a couple people that claim to know him, and he has no memory of these people whatsoever. And
to be fair, that shit happens to me all the time.
It's true.
I mean, I don't think
for different reasons.
I don't think I have memory blocks or anything, but I am constantly running into people that know me that I'm like, oh, hi.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I do too.
Look, I know I'm not famous from these video blogs. All right. We got 30 subscribers. It's far from Brad Pitt over here. But I really can't go to Walmart without somebody from trivia going, oh, hey, Tiny, how's it going? And she always like, do you know? I don't know. So it's small town, but it's not that small. I mean, it's 60,000 people.
Yeah.
But anyway, I know how he feels. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, what were we going to say?
Nothing. Go ahead.
So Stone introduces the fact that Snow's memory gaps were intentional.
I want to talk about the bar they meet in.
Oh yeah, the last shot.
Yeah, there's a bar called The Last Shot, and I'm not sure exactly where it was. I don't remember.
I think it was somewhere like in Kazakhstan or somewhere like in the Eastern Bloc.
Not the easiest bar to find.
No.
And but you go there, and apparently no communications there. Cell phones work, so it's a great place to talk to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why Stone and Snow meet there.
Yeah.
All right, and you can tell he tells Elijah all about the memory blocks, right?
Yeah. Well, do you want to finish? Do you want to tell what the rest of the bar is about?
No, go ahead. I don't remember.
Well, I can tell. So basically, there's a bunch of like nuclear scientists that live there, and they've determined that the soul is basically just electromagnetic field, and that by strapping themselves to nuclear bombs before they detonate, the EM pulse on a nuclear bomb disrupts the soul, and therefore neither heaven nor hell gets this soul. So basically, it's in a way destroying the soul of this person. So they go to this bar, they have a shot, they take a picture, put it up on the wall, they go down to their secret bunker, strap themselves to nukes, and kill themselves.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
The souls, these electromagnetic souls, are used to fuel heaven and hell, right?
Yeah, I think they describe them as chaos engines that run on souls. Yeah. Okay, so anyway,
how many miles do you get to the soul?
I don't know. I guess it depends on.
I mean, if you're taking somebody's soul, I think that we made a nice cross country trip. I'd like to think we wouldn't have to stop for gas if we used somebody's soul for the trip.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it depends on how good or how bad this person was. Like somebody like Trump probably could feel an engine for a good long while.
Because he has a strong soul, or because
just because he's I don't know. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm going to interrupt for a second. I was at a barbecue yesterday, and there was a lot of guns being shot because I'm in the South.
Yeah.
And I made a statement of accidentally that I was a liberal.
Uh,
Man, you'd have thought I farted in church. I was like, I'm sorry, you're a what? like it was just a foreign concept that somebody would be like, oh yeah, I actually believe all people are equal. Yeah, help your fellow man. Wow,
that's blasphemy down there, man.
It's horrible. But anyway, back to our story.
So Stone basically lets Elijah know that his memory gaps are intentional, and this is kind of where we really start learning about the four.
The Four. The Fantastic Four, but not the Fantastic Four. Though
the super evil Fantastic Four.
Yeah, the super evil Fantastic Four.
And that they're this group that are kind of the opposite of Planetary. They are out looking for this information for selfish gains. They're keeping all of this information from humanity. And you find out that Elijah Snow and Planetary have gotten a little too good at what they do, and that they have upset the Four, and that's why Elijah's got these memory blocks, because if he didn't submit to this, they were going to kill his friends. So he takes these memory blocks. And so once the idea of the memory blocks is introduced, then all of a sudden his memory starts coming back. And
that's not good. That's not good for the people around him. It's good for him.
It's good for him. It's not good for his friends. It's not good for the Four. And once this happens, then the story really starts moving forward. And
moving forward by going backwards.
Yes. There's a lot of backstory going on. The second half of the book. They tell you why, how Elijah Snow came to become the detective that he was, how he found Sherlock Holmes, in his first forays into this conspiracy. The history of Opaque Ray, where he first meets Lord Blackstone, the Tarzan type character.
Right. According to the Planetary timeline, again, he was born in 1900. He meets the Invisible Man, Van Helsing, and finds Frankenstein's laboratory in 1919.
Yes.
Meets Sherlock Holmes and the Vampire in 1920.
Yeah, and he spent the next 5 years studying.
Around the same time.
Yeah, he spent 5 years studying with Sherlock Holmes there.
But these events that happened very early in his life are covered in issues 13, 15, and 18 of 27.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so once the story starts gets going and starts really picking up, then it's all backstory. And as irritating as that sounds, it's still fascinating stuff.
It is. It's amazing. Like I said, we were talking in the pre-show, and I said it took me like 10 issues to really get into the meat of it and to really start enjoying it. Because I read the first 6, and then I was like, all right, I just need a break, because there's so much science and there's not a lot of
story.
3 plot structure.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of 3 plot structure. It's not A to B to, I should have had my big event by now, and we should be rolling. So none of that is there. Strenuous for me the first bit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's how Transmet is too. I mean, Transmetropolitan.
You've got the Transmet being really hard to get into. I kind of put it to Breaking Bad. I think Breaking Bad season 1 is very, very full of information, but it's kind of slow.
Yeah, definitely.
Once you understand what his problems are, it starts to pick up the steam.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was kind of the Breaking Bad of comics for me.
Yeah, but once it gets going, then it's just like you don't want to put it down.
No. I finished the last 17 issues were like one sitting, kind of just. I was on a tear.
Oh yeah.
No, I'm not. No, babe, we'll do that in a minute. I gotta finish this.
I gotta finish this book. Yeah. So once we start getting to the backstory, we learn how Elijah found Sherlock Holmes, and his associations with he'd met Axel Brass in the past, and this whole group that Axel Brass belonged to, which included Edison. They were like it was like the League of Extraordinary. They're kind of like the Justice Society. They're like the golden age of these heroes. These characters in the past. Blackstone was in there. Hark was in there. all these characters that have like, impact on the stories. Like, you meet Hark's daughter later on. She plays an interesting part in introducing James Wilder's character, who has a big turn in the end.
James Wilder confused the hell out of me, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I was lost as I know where he's at the end of the story, but where he came in, I had no idea.
He comes in pretty early with that stone that he runs onto and disappears.
Yeah, okay, like the phase shifting stone.
Yeah.
What was it? I'm trying to find it here.
The shift stone.
The shift stone.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So much I mean, there's some stuff that doesn't pay off.
The shift stone was from. Wait, hold on. The shift stone was from the shift ship, which crashed in the early crustacean period.
Yes. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff that's introduced early on that doesn't pay off until the end, and it's like, okay, you're sitting there waiting for it, but yeah, I mean,
Edison and Brass built computers together in the 40s.
Yeah, including a computer that could map the world.
Right, they're building a computer that can map the world, and he kind of takes over. Like, is it the care of it, or is there's something wrong with him when they find him at wherever he's at?
Well, what happened is they basically, this computer was they were going to try and code this computer to make a perfect world, and in doing so, they essentially mapped the multiverse, all like 192,000 dimensions of this multiverse, and in doing so, ended up bringing across a Justice League type team who wanted to take over this Earth because theirs was dying. And in the resulting battle, Axel Brass was the only one to survive. So he remained there because he was injured in the fight, but he remained there just in case anything else happened, anything else decided to come through, because they couldn't shut it down. So yeah, so this happened in 1945, and they show up in 1999 and find him.
There's a HQ in the Adirondacks. That's where they are.
Yeah, that's Elijah's first mission with Planetary. They discovered Dr. Brass in the Adirondacks. Adirondacks, yeah.
And it says here that in 1942 he eliminates his need for food or sleep.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got powers, but it's all technological and mental based. Stuff that he taught himself. He didn't need to eat or sleep. He
stopped aging. He learns to close his wounds with his mind.
Yeah. I
mean, that's kind of Wolverine, isn't it?
A little bit. I think he's a little bit like Doc Savage, like in the old like Gold Key kind of stories. Like I said, a lot of these characters are based on other characters. Like I said, you've got the Green Hornet and the Lone Ranger showing up, and I mean, they even go into the fact that they're related. I didn't know about this until a handful of years ago, but that there is a family relation between the Lone Ranger and the Green Hornet. They're like direct descendants of each other. Yeah. Oh. And this story plays upon that, and in the story that they tell, the family, the Leather family.
One of the Leathers is one of the Millennial babies.
Yes.
That would be Brett Leather.
Yeah, the Green Hornet character.
And then his son is
William Leather.
William Leather.
Although William Leather actually is not the descendant of Brett Leather.
No, he's the son of
some mobster,
Danny Vincenzo.
Yeah, some two-bit nobody that his mother was having an affair with while his dad is out fighting crime at night.
Mothers are such whores.
and that's how he William Leather is one of the members of the Four, and that's how he became. That's how he was talked into this group. The guy that runs the Four is a guy named Randall Dowling, who is this scientist, brilliant man. And this kind of goes back to the backstory where I don't remember. Leather was one of a state trooper like the Lone Ranger, and they were hunting down the Dowling gang, run by Randall Dowling's ancestors. So that's where that whole tie comes in, that the Dowlings and the Leathers have bad blood over the years. But because when William found out that his dad was one of these Millennial babies, and that Brett Leather wasn't his father, he felt he was cheated out of a birthright that should have been his, some powers or abilities that he should have been given because his father was one of these special people. And so when Dowling came along and said, "Hey, I can help you reclaim what should be rightfully yours," William Leather jumped at the chance.
All right, so I'm trying to figure out where we're at here. William Leather. All right, so William Leather, Jon Snow fires on the Nautilus.
Yes, that's a.
All right.
And again, this is another one of these.
All right, here we go. All right, first we have the Armistice. The Armistice creates a rocket to travel to the moon.
Oh, Artemis Project, yeah.
And the Artemis Project is basically how the Four become the Four. Like the Fantastic Four kind of hit the field of whatever
the cosmic radiation. Yeah.
Same kind of thing here. And that works. That's how the Four become the Four.
Yeah. And then when they first introduced this whole thing, it's basically sounds like they were shot into space, came across some weird stuff, came back with powers. But, then later on in the story, it kind of reveals more of their backstory. You find out that they actually access the bleed, which is the bleed is described as the kind of like the veins between the universes, this multiverse, that it's the space between different universes. So they accessed the bleed and came across an alternate Earth where they had made a deal with the inhabitants of that planet to gain superpowers, because everybody on that universe had powers.
And the price for those powers is they have to give up our planet.
Yeah, but I think they had like a 50-year timeline to get this planet ready for takeover.
Years, yeah.
And so that's how these four come back, and their powers pretty much mirror the Fantastic Four. Randall Dowling can stretch. Kim Sus.
They do a different kind of stretching. He can stretch his mind into other people's minds.
Yeah.
It's the Fantastic Four kind of advanced, I guess.
And there is one thing about the Fantastic Four that Warren Ellis kind of talks about here that was never really talked about with the Fantastic Four, and that Kim Susskind, the invisible woman of this group, has to have these special goggles to see, because when you turn invisible, light passes through something. So how could Sue Storm be able to see if her eyes were invisible? It's one of those things that nobody, Stan Lee never thought about that when he created the Invisible Woman in '63.
Sure,
so
why would he?
Yeah, exactly. He was creating gamma radiation and cosmic rays and radioactive spiders. He didn't think about the reality of what some of these things would actually do to people.
It's the bitch that only a fanboy could make.
Yeah, yeah. Leave it to Warren Ellis to slap some reality and science into some of these superpowers.
Just ridiculous.
Yeah, and then the last member of the four is Jacob Green, who is the Thing, essentially. And
there's not really a Johnny Storm, though, really.
Well, Leathers is kind of Johnny Storm. Instead of fire, he's electricity based.
Okay. All right, that makes sense then.
Yeah,
I guess.
Yeah. So.
All right. I don't know. Like I said, the story jumps all over. I don't want to spoil a story, and we don't want to give too much away. And we realize that this is a 12-year-old story or whatever, but still, we prefer that you read it on your own.
It's definitely worth a read. And like I said, this is one of those books that if you were reading it in issue form, it sucked because of how long it took to come out. But if you get the trades, and you could sit down and read this in a couple days. Like I said, there are parts that don't seem to make any sense, but if you read the story as a whole, it makes a lot of sense. And it just, the stuff that doesn't seem to fit into, where it's at in the story comes back around full circle a few issues later or towards the end of the book. And all of a sudden, everything that just didn't seem to make sense comes together and makes perfect sense.
I think if they were ever to make this into any kind of other video media, I don't think it could probably be a movie, but it would be a very long one.
Yeah, maybe like do a couple of
these.
They could
cut it out, but they'd have to rearrange the story.
Oh, of course,
into more of a 3-act structure, which is just that's the one thing that's lacking in it. It really throws you off, and it's tough. But if you can, and it'll pay off the dividends in the end. Yeah, it's just it's a little bit of a tough read. It wasn't as tough as like Watchmen.
No,
Watchmen is a tough read.
Oh man, I've only ever read that book. I've read a book like 1.5 times because I started to read it.
I read it once.
I started to read it and just got so bored with it, and I just put it down. And then when I got the absolute version years later, I'm like, you know what? Fuck it, I bought this book. I might as well try and read it. And so I sat there, and it was painful to get through that book. People look at that book as it's one of the greatest stories ever written. I have to disagree with those people.
It's not the easiest story ever written.
No.
It's complicated and convoluted, and this is same. I mean, it's very, very difficult to get to, but once you do,
Yeah.
paid off in full.
Yeah.
I would love to see it as kind of a series, because I think it's possible to do. They did some really interesting things, like bringing Ayers Rock to life in Australia.
Yeah.
And it just like it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean,
Some
they,
things
he pulls in like like Aboriginal history, with the whole, the world being sang into creation. That's the reality that these people believe, and that if these songs aren't sung, then these parts of the world will cease to exist. So he takes like real cultural history and weaves it into the story too. So I mean, it's not just. I mean, there's all kinds of like random stuff in there you would expect to find in a book.
It's definitely fascinating, and I highly recommend it.
Yeah,
We're gonna
I do love this book.
we're gonna cut this a little bit short tonight because it's a holiday and it's been a very long weekend. I have a lot of fantasy football stuff to do for the podcast tomorrow.
Nice.
That's what it's really cracking down to, is fantasy football season, and now I got stuff to do. But next week we were going to do our last back issues for a while. Next week we're going to do some Kevin Smith stuff, and then the subsequent Monday we will be switching over to Walking Dead.
Yep, sounds good.
In the recap, right?
Yeah.
So read up on your Walking Dead, at least up to 100, and yeah, because I think that's where I want to stop. I don't know if I want to get ahead in because I haven't read up to 100 yet.
Oh, the show's way past 100 right now,
or not.
The show's well past 100 at this point.
Negan was 100.
I'm
pretty sure.
Well, yeah,
Negan is,
Negan's yeah. I think you're about right there. That's right.
Yeah. I'm almost positive that Negan was episode or issue 100. So
yeah, I think
that's
right.
cool. So we're gonna handle Walking Dead, and we're gonna take our very comic booky approach to it, and I really love that comic, so this is gonna be fun. I dig the show, but I'm way more about the comic. And
yeah,
I'm not so much about Carol. Sorry. Sorry. If Negan kills him, I'm gonna be happy.
Yeah,
but that'll do it. Pick up Planetary. We think you'll like it.
Yeah.
And up until next week. Love, many, trust, few, and do harm to no one. See ya.